What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are and whatever time it is. Welcome back to another video with your man, Measureholic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Total War Rome 2 campaign using the Divide at Impera mod, playing as Sparta. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are hopefully taking our new capital, Alexandria. I've been spending a lot of turns since the capture of Rhodes, basically hoarding up our money and trying to recreate our army to be as efficient as possible for taking the city. I know I'm going to need a lot of swordsmen, so I'm going to be relying on my Pharaoh swordsmen to get in there and get the job done against the Egyptian pikes and spears, which they are very well known for. However, you can see the enemy has a lot of troops around Alexandria, and I basically mean a shit ton. There's 4 enemy stacks around the city, including a 17 unit strong garrison. This is not going to be easy. So what I actually did is I spent probably about 2 years or so just hoarding up money for my treasury while training my troops, in addition to waiting until the enemy units had moved away. Now they kept moving away and then coming back, so I mounted my army up on the troops, on the troop transports, and I managed to time it so we would be attacking in the middle of winter. Well, actually at the very beginning, so hopefully the enemy armies will be slow to respond. But finally, we are now going to assault Alexandria itself. Let's do this thing. Let's get our new home ready. And here we are. We have some beautiful and very well trained Rhodian slingers at the front. Here are our Pharaoh swordsmen, or Scutari swordsmen is I believe the specific unit that we're using here. They actually have guerrilla deployment, which we're going to see be very useful moving forward in the campaign. We also have our elite, well maybe not elite, but professional Spartan hoplites. And then in the rear is our King Arius with his famous 300 personal bodyguard unit. We have a really excellent army. It's a very Spartan-esque army in that we have basically entirely just Greeks. We also have some Helot archers in the background as well, who are going to be helpful taking down the enemy gate. The thing about this attack though is that the enemy has a decent sized navy that was attached to the city, so I'm going to have to worry about troops landing on my flank and coming in and hitting us from the side. But while I'm focusing on redirecting troops that way, I'm going to be assaulting the enemy walls very quickly. Now our swordsmen were able to deploy very close to the walls with ladders because of their guerrilla deployment, so we're almost instantly getting up on the walls and attacking the enemy, so that's going to be really helpful to try and avoid the arrow fire of the towers. My swordsmen are going to do very well against the pikemen, since the pikes can't be used on the walls, but that pikeman unit in particular is fairly well disciplined, so they are going to hold out for quite a while. But over here you can see my Rhodian slingers are slaughtering some of the enemy units that have landed from the ships already. I did have my basically 2-ship navy get involved in the assault of Alexandria, but they're basically just going to be a distraction for the enemy fleet while we continue assaulting the city. I'm also trying to be a little bit more specific with my archers and what I'm targeting. I'm trying to hit the units that will have their backs to my archers. And then I focus on the cavalry behind, who are skirmisher units. And while I'm doing that, I'm very specifically and slowly moving up my swordsmen to get, my spearmen to get up on the walls. I'm very, I guess specific is the best word I could come up with in micromanaging my troops to get up the ladders correctly. If you just give them a basic attack order, then you don't know how your unit is going to go up due to the terrible pathfinding in this game. So you're really going to be very specific in how you micromanage your troops to get up on the walls and use siege equipment, but it works. All of my units did what they were told to appropriately, so we ended up overrunning the enemy on the walls, but they do have a lot of troops down below that are going to be stopping us from coming out. So I'm going to have my swordsmen move to the main gate and capture it, so I can move in my general and some more hoplites to begin bulldozing their way through the streets. They are taking some pretty heavy archer fire, but the enemy levies that are being sent up against us are just absolutely no match. So as long as I keep giving it good attack orders, we're going to fly through them pretty quickly. My Rhodian slingers are over here decimating the enemy archer ship that got too close. These Rhodian slingers are fantastic. I usually really don't like using slingers in my campaigns, but for this one I'm going to try to make an exception and use them a little bit more. But we'll see what happens as we move forward. Here we're still fighting on the walls, although we are winning the fight. We have a lot of troops up here, but they all can't get involved in the fight at the same time. So I'm trying to overload the enemy and push them back with our heavy mass and our heavy armor, or at least heavy shields that our hoplites have. In the meantime, I'm pushing up their main street with my hoplites and the general, King Arius. He's in the rear still. He's not leading the assault on the city right now. He's too precious to warrant losing to some lucky javelin fire and whatnot. On the south side here, though, I'm outflanking the enemy's cavalry with swordsmen, and I'm going to have a hoplite unit come up and back up my swords, which is a good idea because the enemy cavalry got caught up and started melee fighting us. So we're basically surrounding the cavalry with spearmen. I did have my swordsmen come in as well and tie up the enemy archers, which was excellent. It stopped them from getting free kills on my hoplites. Egyptian archers are going to be a big problem in this invasion, and so I'm going to have to really try to focus my faster moving units on tracking them down and stopping them. But they did that very, very quickly, and now they're going to come in and outflank the enemy cavalry while I'm continuing to push forward my hoplites. This is looking really well so far. It's looking really good. The enemy archers tried to flee so they can continue shooting us from further away, but my hoplites, being out of phalanx formation, were actually too quick for the enemy to escape, and so we're going to cut them down pretty quickly. Once you do catch an enemy unit, they usually turn around and engage you, so that's what they're doing here. But here's a nice little one-on-one you get to see my hoplite unit swapping from his spear to his sword very quickly, as he's well trained to do, but he just cuts down the enemy very, very easily. And with that, here is our grand jewel, Alexandria. Here is an overshot of the famous lighthouse of Alexandria. I'm assuming that large building back there was a library before it got burnt down. Rip. But anyway, we actually assault the city very well, and we take it. We now finally have a brand new home for a Spartan empire to begin. And begin it shall, and here are the statistics of the invasion if you want to see. Basically, most of our troops did really well. My slingers didn't get as many kills as I would like, but they didn't get to because it was a siege. They can't kill many units on the walls, so they're fine. My hoplites did great. My swordsmen did friggin' excellent. However, a lot of the swordsmen died, so I'm gonna have to either replace them with better swordsmen or use more of them to try and avoid losing so many at one time. But now that we have Alexandria, I'm gonna focus on trying to reorganize my army and prepare for these enemy stacks that are surrounding Alexandria to come charging at us. I'm going to merge a lot of my units. I'm going to be recruiting some Egyptian mercenaries and some Galatians in particular. They were very well known for their skill in combat, the Galatians, and they were used often throughout this period in history as mercenaries, especially by Ptolemies and the Hellenistic factions, so we're going to follow in that tradition. Here we are moving the capital to Alexandria, this awesome move capital feature that Divided Impera provides. I highly recommend you use it. It's amazing. Thank you so much, DEI team. Love you for that feature. It's so awesome. It costs a lot of money, but it's worth it. We now have our new capital here, and thankfully we had a couple turns of respite without the enemy attacking us, and I was able to build up a fleet of about 10 ships or so, and I'm going to be sending them out to decimate an entire enemy army that was floating on transport ships. I fought the battle manually, but I'm not going to show you guys just because it was fairly boring and straightforward. There wasn't really a lot to show, but we basically wipe out the enemy army for free, almost. I did take some casualties with my ships, but that doesn't matter. I'm not really planning on being too effective with my ships anyway. They're basically just a support unit at this point. Speaking of support, we then move on to an Egyptian army that I'm going to be creating. Our population for true Spartans, I should say, Spartan hoplites, is very, very low. We have very low manpower, and our population in general is always going to be a problem in a Spartan campaign. So I'm going to be recruiting Egyptian levies and mercenaries to try and supplement our proper Spartan army, and hopefully they'll be able to hold Alexandria while I send out the Spartan army to begin launching more attacks against the Egyptians. They're taking their time to come and attack us. In fact, they haven't at all yet. I'm not too sure why. I know that they're fighting the Seleucids in the east and the Cyrenaians in the west, so that might be why they're not too sure what direction they want to go. Here I try to attack an army. I know it's kind of done to attack two armies at once, but I had killed the general of one of those armies, so I was hoping that army wouldn't join the fight, but he still, that army still would, so I actually retreated, and then after giving it a few minutes of thought, I decided to head south and attack Memphis instead. If the Egyptians aren't going to attack me, then I'm going to take advantage of that and try and take as much territory as I can, and hopefully we can get this breadbasket of Memphis to help support our invasion further. So here we go with the assault of Memphis. Alrighty, here's our composition. On the right hand flank we have Egyptian swordsmen mercenaries that I've recruited to help make up for the Perioikoi we lost in the assault of Alexandria. We have our Rhodian slingers at the front, our Spartan hoplites in the center, with King Arius at the center actually. He's going to be leading the battle itself from the front. We have some Helot archers in the rear combined with the remnants of our Perioikoi swordsmen. And then on the left-hand flank, we have 3 Galatian units. It's quite a lot. Might be a little bit of overkill, but I'm really trying to make sure we don't lose any of these battles, because if we do, then this campaign is going to be over very, very quickly, and I plan to not let that happen. Our Rhodian slingers engage the enemy, and it forces them to begin engaging us due to their massive range. The enemy did have 1 unit of cavalry, which is going to be a bit of a pain, but beyond that, our units completely outclass theirs. And so it's just going to be a matter of me micromanaging my troops appropriately to make sure that we all get attack orders, and my slingers are going to focus on dealing with the enemy archers. My swordsmen on the flank will begin outflanking and focus on killing the enemy swordsmen that are coming at us, which are mainly citizens of Memphis that have been forced to come and fight us. So there I am giving my attack orders with my slingers and archers. My archers are going to be focusing on my cavalry. I kept them in the rear so I could focus on kind of sniping targets with them. So that's going to be really helpful in dealing with the cabs, since I have literally no cavalry whatsoever. I can't recruit any at the moment. The only ones that could would be Spartan cav, and Spartan cav is horrendous. But you can see the enemy archers, oh gosh, I can't talk. The enemy archers got slaughtered by my Rhodian slingers. And so that's going to really help us not take too many casualties throughout this fight. My hoplites are engaging across the line without, even just with some minor outflanking. The enemy troops are going to start to rout fairly quickly, and we're going to be getting some nice kills against them. I'm making sure to give my hoplites continuous attack orders though. With DEI, you need to give them attack orders so they continue fighting. If you double right click on an enemy unit, it will actually make your hoplite unit push and attack at the same time into that enemy unit. You'll take more casualties, but you'll kill more enemies as a result. So I highly recommend you experiment with hoplites if you're new to DEI, and figure out how you want to approach your battles and how you want to push. And you need to time your push as well. But regardless, the enemy army routes relatively quickly. We do have some archer support coming in to deal with this heavier spearman unit that's holding out for a little bit longer. But combining the outflanking with some flaming arrows, and boom, the enemy army is gone. We now have the ancient Egyptian capital of Memphis. And here are the statistics if you'd like to see them. Basically across the board, our army did fantastic. My Perioikoi were left in reserve, so it's okay they didn't get too many kills. But my Spartan hoplites, they're doing really well considering they're hoplites. Hoplites aren't really designed to kill too many units. But you can see I've trained my troops up a lot because I have a champion with them. So that's also helped us as well. It's helped improve their skill and their morale. So our army is very highly trained and very well disciplined for the most part. We do have a lot of mercenaries, but that's okay. They will help us out and give us some good support. I debated on what I was going to do with Memphis once I captured it. I nearly liberated it so I'd have an ally to support us in our invasion, but because Memphis is such an important city to hold because of the food it provides, I actually ended up with going just with occupying it instead of looting it or liberating it or anything. So now we have 2 cities inside Egypt already. I'm sure the Egyptians are now going to be pissed off and come and give us a counterattack. But that counterattack is going to have to wait for the next video. So thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.